11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Should be 6 now. Yes, it is. All right. Success. Success. That's not a word. Success. That's a word. Hey everyone, and welcome to the BPD Bunch Live. This episode is brought to you by our amazing supporters on Patreon. So I want to give a huge shout out to them for making the BPD Bunch happen. I'm Xannie, the creator and host of the show, and today I am here to chat with you, our audience, for an AMA. Now, I had gathered some questions ahead of time from our followers on Instagram, but I noticed that there's already a question in the chat, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with that. If we need to fill anything in with the questions that you asked ahead of time, we've got that. But anyone wants to add a question, just go into the chat box and type it in, and hopefully we will get to it. So the first one is, how long were you in therapy until it felt like you were getting better? My therapist is great, but I feel like we've tried everything and nothing helps me. So this is one of those things where there's kind of like a literal answer, which is like I started therapy when I was 13 and I didn't start really feeling better until I was 27. So you can do that math. I will say though, I didn't actually do therapy like consistently that whole time. It's kind of hard to answer because I think at different periods in my life, therapy wasn't working for different reasons. And I think when you're assessing like the efficacy of something like that, you have to take those kind of things into account. So like when I was a teenager, I really didn't take therapy all that seriously. I didn't really put in the work. And I really needed something that was skills based. And even when I started finding places that were able to help me and maybe qualified to help me, I think one of the biggest things that made a difference was finding a therapist that I actually had a real connection with. Because somebody can be really great at teaching skills, but there's something to be said for having chemistry with your therapist. And I'm still seeing a therapist now, and we've been working together since 2017. And I think I owe a lot to, I mean, she is a DBT therapist, and I found DBT was very helpful. But I kind of go through phases too. It's not like once something starts working, all of a sudden it's great. I think when I first started DBT, it seemed amazing at first because there were a couple skills that I applied and it seemed like they really worked. But as I started to dig into some of the deeper parts of having BPD, it was like, okay, this doesn't feel like it's working as much. And I think there are some things where it really takes a lot of repetition and a lot of work, and it feels like things aren't progressing, partially because a lot of the progress is so small. Um so I guess I would say to the person who asked the question, you know, I would ask yourself what it is that you feel like is holding you back. If it's something to do with your ability to engage with the material itself, like are you able to understand it, or is it more of an issue of like putting things into action? And also consider comorbidities. I have ADHD on top of having BPD, so that's part of why a lot of things have been kind of difficult for me to put into action, because I needed to manage that also, and I'm still working to manage that. I actually feel like ADHD is almost more of an issue these days than the BPD is. So I don't know if that answered the question or not, but it does take a long time, and put in the effort. I think you will get there. All right. Now we go to our questions of awesome. What is this one? When you first thought of creating the BPD bunch, did it feel unattainable? How did you realize it was a possibility? What was the process going from idea to launch? So,